Hey everyone, this is Aliana, and today's video is for those of you who feel like you have to be on social media, but you hate it, but you have to be on it because you have to run a business. So I'll start by saying that actually you don't need to be on social media to do digital marketing. Believe it or not, you could market yourself online without ever using any social media channel. I could probably make another video about this because that's a bigger topic for another day. But today I wanted to create a little guide for those of you who hate social media so that you don't lose your sanity. Because the thing is, for us creators, we all know that this is a long game, but nobody really talks about how do you endure this thing, and more importantly, how do you enjoy it? Because we don't want to just endure it, we want to enjoy the journey, we want to enjoy the process. So how do we do this? So how this thought was that I had a few conversations this week. The first person I spoke to was an entrepreneur who had a successful, business, and he said to me, I want to create content, but I hate social media. It's stupid. I don't like how people are on it, so I don't want to participate in it because it's too negative. And whenever I tried in the past, it just didn't feel great. The other person said to me, I have a lot of attention, but unfortunately, I feel like I have to do inflammatory things in order to get attention. If I post something not negative, people don't look at it, like my engagement is not so great. Another person said, he was posting, he was kind of doing okay, he's getting some people to look and stuff, but his stuff was just lost in a sea of all the other crappy content, and he was feeling a little bit resentful as to why social media is full of people who have no talent, and in his words, no talent, nothing, they don't know more than I do, they're not better than me, they're not creating anything better, they're not smarter, so why are they getting thousands of comments and likes and whatever, and I barely get by, and that sort of thing. So a few of these things expressed in different ways, I gathered that the common denominator is this deep hatred for social media, but also feeling resentful because I gotta do it, they think they have to do it, and they hate it and they don't know how to use it. So I want to share with you a few things that hopefully will help you out. So a couple of things I want to talk about today. First is the binary stance that I used to make this mistake where I used to think, oh, I want to think long-term, not short-term. And actually it's not long or short-term, it's both. And then I want to share with you a few boundaries that I think every content creator needs. So if you're a content creator and you're playing the long game and you want to make sure that you do it in a way that is sustainable and that is joyful, that you're getting attention in a way that feels right for you, then keep watching. All right, so the first one is the long versus short-term thinking. Now, you probably have heard me a million times talk about how important it is to have this long-term vision for what you want to create with your content, and that this is a long game, but the reality is it's actually both, okay? And I started to realize this when I thought back to my days in marketing and this war, if you will, between performance marketing and brand marketing. For those of you who don't know, in marketing, there are two sides, or marketers perceive them as two sides. One is the performance marketing, which is all about conversions and dollars, and then the other one is like brand, right? So brand versus performance. So performance would be anything that would get the sale, that would get ROI, and then brand is like art and design and beauty and purpose and whatnot. And there's usually kind of like a gap between these two departments or divisions, and very few marketers know how to do both at the same time, how to build a brand or have a long-term vision while at the same time driving short-term results. People think that you can do both, and in reality, not only you can, but you must. Like, every marketing effort should be about achieving both. It should be about performance and brand, and it's not necessarily always going to perform right away or show you the results immediately. So that's why people think it's not performance-based, but it's absolutely contributing to your performance. The brand is absolutely profitable. When you build a brand for the long term, your marketing dollars go much further, and your performance marketing, your marketing that you do, your sales, the things that you do to get the result, they should also tie into the brand. Otherwise, you are hurting your long-term results. So it's basically like this for a content creator. This is the long-term. Well, it's more like, if we're being real, it's more like this, whatever, I don't know, for different people it's a different graph, but we'll just pretend it's linear and it goes like this, all right? And you take an idea as a creator and you invest in it, because that's what we are idea investors. We take an idea, we invest our time, our energy in it, we build upon it, we synthesize it, we organize it, we present it to the market, and then we reinvest in it. Hopefully you're not constantly picking new ideas from nowhere. I mean, you can, but you should at least pick a portfolio of ideas that you really want to invest in and revisit periodically. You keep revisiting these ideas and the values of these ideas keeps increasing. So this idea seemingly has no value to the market, but you invest in it, you reveal the value, you bring it back to the market, and so on and so forth. And like I said, you have your portfolio of ideas and you keep doing that. And over time, you build a brand that is known for certain ideas. People will start to recognize you for thinking in a certain type of way, and you have your own framework and that sort of thing, okay? I'm oversimplifying it. Now, while you're doing this, and this takes a long time to create these kinds of results, while you're doing that, you need to have these short spikes, these short-term results here. So you're doing things that are grabbing attention, that are getting the sales. You're doing the things that are, the equivalent of performance marketing. You're using content that's going to perform, that's going to get you the results. And that doesn't need to be inflammatory comments. It doesn't need to be a hot selfie. It doesn't need to be a clickbait title. In fact, it shouldn't be, because it loses its effect after a while and it hurts your long-term, building, because this is the crux. This is what matters more than anything. This is just to sustain you along the way. This is because you need to get some results. Otherwise, you're gonna get tired if you're building a brand and you're putting content for 3, 4, 5 years. Very few people are gonna be able to maintain that unless you absolutely freaking love it, and under extreme circumstances. But otherwise, you really need to see some results to keep the momentum going, okay? So this is where these short-term results come in. So you don't have to do things like that to get attention and to get results on social media. I touched on it a couple of times, but my favorite way of catching attention is to start with a problem that people have. Because people are constantly walking around with problems, desires, things that they're thinking about. And if you intercept their mental chatter, right? They're thinking about the thing they want and how they can't have it because they're missing XYZ, and you enter the chat in their mind and you talk to them about those things, and they'll give you attention. So you don't have to use any of the unsustainable things. If you start with what they need, you can get their attention, and if you deliver on it, then you're building the trust and you're building the brand. Okay, so that's how you get that. One of the easiest, most sustainable ways to gain their attention. And this has been talked about by many other creators, educating, entertaining, inspiring. It's important that you combine these things, so you're not just focusing on just educating all the time or just entertaining all the time, unless that's what you do. You're a comedian, but even the best comedians, they have a combination of. So, you want to do a little bit of a couple of things, something that appeals to the mind, that is value driven, like educating, with something that appeals to the emotion, like entertaining and inspiring, right? You're combining these two things at the same time. Again, that's another topic for another day. Let me know if that's something you want me to dive deeper into. I can make another video about it. But for the sake of this video, let's talk about the boundaries that are important, I think, for any creator. So if you're a content creator, no matter what it is that you do on social media, you're running a business on social media, you need to set these boundaries. I don't care how aware you are. I don't care how strong you think you are, how much willpower you have. The reality is, if you don't have these boundaries, there's a good chance social media is gonna suck you in. It's gonna destroy your mind and your heart and your emotion and your well-being and all of it. You need boundaries around how you use social media. So what are those boundaries? The first and most important one is to get very clear on why are you using it in the first place. We tend to forget. I started using social media after a lot of resistance. I didn't have Instagram, Twitter, none of these things for many years. Probably like close to a decade since I stopped using social media, and then I started using it again because I knew I wanted to put my ideas, my perspective out there, and I thought social media is one of the best places or one of the best ways to do that. I still believe that, and I didn't want to run away from the thing that I hated. I wanted to go to the channel I hated the most, which is LinkedIn, and I was like, I'm gonna go on LinkedIn, I'm gonna be my full self-expression there, right there, the place that I despise more than anything. It was more of a personal challenge for myself and a form of spiritual growth, if you will. I'm very happy to say that I love LinkedIn now. I've learned how to love it and how to see it for what it is. I love LinkedIn. But, you know, you have to understand, why are you doing it? Why are you using it? Is it to get clients? Is it to attract an audience? Is it both? You know, you're probably doing a combination of both. So attracting an audience is more of a long-term thing. Building a brand is more of a long-term thing. Getting clients, making sales is those short-term goals, if you will. So those little spikes that sustain you while you're building the long-term thing. But you have to get clear on your goals, and you have to remind yourself every single day, why am I using it? Because that's gonna stop you from dwindling. Like, this thing is designed to suck you in and to make you its slave. So you have to know why you're using it, and you have to be very clear every single day when you're logging in, what am I getting out of it? Why am I going on this thing? The second thing that's very, very, very important for you to set is a zero resentment time budget. What that means is, well, you're gonna need to do a lot of things. You're gonna need to post, comment, engage, DM people, you know, respond to DMs, respond to other people's comments here and there, jump on calls. You don't have to do all of those things. You don't have to do anything at all, but there's a good chance you're gonna do a combination of these things. I used to, for example, resent having to go on a coffee chat. My response used to be almost an automatic no. If somebody asks, hey, do you want to jump on a quick call and let's chat? I'd be like, no, because I resented the idea of spending my time talking to a complete stranger who just wanted to, you know, talk to me about whatever. And I realized I was missing on opportunities to meet great people. Like, I had some calls and I realized, wow, I love this person. I really enjoy talking to them. I'm really glad I said yes to this. So instead of doing that, now what I do is I set a boundary around how much time I'm willing to budget for that. For where I am right now, I'm willing to give 30 minutes a week to random conversations, no attachment. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. Maybe I'll enjoy talking to this person, maybe not, we will see. But hey, if I have 2 slots of 15 minutes and I'm talking to this random person for 15 minutes and I don't think we're gonna get along, I don't think it's gonna go anywhere, it's okay. Worst case scenario is 15 minutes. But I have 2 spots, and that's opportunities to meet 2 new people every week, and zero resentment if nothing comes out of it. I also have zero resentment time budget for everything, for posting, how much time I'm willing to spend engaging, commenting, DMing, and you have to be okay with not getting back to people and people misunderstanding you and feeling a certain type of way about you. You actually don't even have to apologize if it takes you forever to get back to people. No need to say you're sorry, because you don't owe anyone anything and they don't owe you anything. And I don't know about you, but I personally would much rather if somebody doesn't answer me, if they're busy or they don't feel like talking to anyone, I would much rather if they take the time and space they need and only talk to me when they feel like it. I feel like that's much more respectful, more loving. That's how I like to be treated, so that's how I treat people. So the other thing that's really important is having the to not do list instead of just to do list. Some people call it anti-goals. This is really important. Anti-goals is a list of things that you will not do every single day. One of them for me is not checking my phone first thing in the morning, especially not going on LinkedIn or social media or whatever before I actually did my creative work, which is writing or going for my walk, creating a video if I'm creating a video that day, which is most days nowadays. By the way, I create lots of videos that don't go online. I just practice creating for the sake of creating. Your anti-goals also could include something like, don't argue with random people on the internet. For me, that's one of my biggest do not do lists. I know very clearly that when I'm going on LinkedIn or on social media, if I see something that I don't like, I'll immediately just hit either scroll past it. If it's not for me, I'll just ignore it. But if it's not for me and it's negative, or I feel like this person is posting something intentionally trying to create like, you know, spicy presence online, I'll just hit the 3 dots and just ask the algorithm to not show that to me again. And if that person is repeatedly creating that stuff, I'll just ask that that person is not shown to me at all. And some people, I feel like they have to fight against stuff and, you know, I have to give them a piece of my mind. I think that the more you give attention to something, the more life you give to it. Your energy is giving it life. So the best thing you can do is either ignore it or literally ask the algorithm to not give that to you, not serve that to you. I've curated a great feed when I go. It's most of the time it's positive. Most of the time is filled with useful content, with great people, just good stuff. It makes me feel good when I see it. And if that's not the case, then the last time that happened, that I saw that my feed was not serving me what I wanted to see, I had to take a step back and go, okay, I need to figure out why this is happening, but I will not tolerate being on a platform that doesn't make me feel better, that doesn't support my life outside of because it's the real life that matters. And it's how I feel and how I'm existing, how I feel in this reality that matters. And that fucking thing is not supporting it. And that thing needs to change. I don't need to change. It needs to change to support me, to help me feel my best and be at my best. So you have to curate your feed and you have to set your anti-goals, I guess. The next thing I think is really important when you're a creator is to create reality reminders. Reality reminder means, what are the things you need to remember if you're going into a matrix that's gonna suck you in? One of the things I like to remind myself is everything is not what it seems. So we could sit here and say, hey, don't compare yourself to anyone, which is true. Like, you shouldn't compare yourself to anyone. The truth is, you are going to compare yourself to other people. So it helps to remember that things are not the way they seem online. That's very important. Like, I have a tendency to believe that people are always telling the truth. And it happened to me more than once where I saw someone talk about their achievements online and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But also, why haven't I done this much or whatever? Especially in the past, I used to compare myself a lot and, feel very competitive. And I would feel bad about myself, like I'm not doing enough. And then years later, I would hear that this person's actually just completely making it up and it was a huge scam. And it happened more than once that I was like, wow, okay, not everyone is always telling the truth. So I have to keep that in mind. I also have to keep in mind that a lot of times, it's just our perception. The way we're seeing things online is not really what it is. It's seen through a filter of our own perception, our opinions. There's a script running in the background that's constantly saying things like, oh, you're not good enough, or whatever wounds, trauma you have is going to inform how you perceive things. So you see something online and you make it mean that you are not good enough and you use that as evidence against yourself. That's going to happen. That's just the way the mind works. So you have to set these reality reminders so that you don't get sucked into it and forget the reality of things. Another reality reminder I have is, hey, like, what really matters for me is good health, good relationships, wealth, freedom, etc., etc. So that when I see that people are talking about, all the things that may be like shiny and super attractive that make you go, oh, maybe I should check that out. I'm like, hold on, I don't want to bite more than I can chew. I'm not willing to chew harder and faster right now. This is what I want. This is my goal. Again, clarity about what is it that I'm trying to create here. And the reality is, this is that person's goal. This is that person's dream, not mine. So I have to remind myself of those things. So I think it's really important that you have reality reminders. Ultimately, the best reality reminder is nobody's life is as perfect and great as it seems. Nobody is as confident as they look. Nothing is what it seems. So just relax. You're not alone. Everybody else is going through something. And it helps to surround yourself with people who are vulnerable and open about what they're going through so that you feel less crazy on this journey. The next thing I would do as a creator, and I do this all the time nowadays, is I ask myself, why am I logging in right now? Checking in with how I feel right before logging in. Here's a good rule of thumb. If you feel like shit, don't log in. If you feel any negative emotion, don't go on the internet. Don't go on social media specifically, because you're not gonna find anything there that's gonna help you out. Trust me, okay? If you're not feeling so great, you go on social media, nothing good is gonna come out of it. You're going to feel even worse. You're likely to do something stupid because you want attention. You want somebody to tend to your feelings when you should be tending to your own feelings. So don't do it. Take care of yourself. Make sure that you're feeling your best. Go there when you have something to give, not when you need to take something. And last but not least, I've come to realize lately how important it is to take periodical sabbaticals or little breaks from content creation. Mine is every 9 weeks. I'll take 1 week. Maybe I'll ramp that up to once every 5 weeks, but right now I don't feel like I need that. But you figure out what works for you. It's important to take like a week off of content creation, content sharing, commenting, engaging, etc. It's just important to take a step back, to reevaluate, like, hey, in the last few months, or for me in this case, last 9 weeks, what worked, what didn't, what did I enjoy most, how do I feel about my content nowadays, do I want to take this in a different creative direction? A lot of questions that it's hard to remember to ask those things when you're in the weeds of things, but when you take a step back and you look at it, you separate yourself from it, it makes it a lot easier to spot the patterns and to figure out where you want to go next. One last thing I want to leave you with is this is a very long game. And I know I said earlier it's both long-term and short-term goals that we're going after, but really it's a long game in the sense that if you're a creator, especially if you're following your creative calling, your life's message, your path, your truth, this is going to be a lifetime thing. It's not like 1 year even, or 2 years or 5 years. It's not something you're creating to sell. You're trying to build something of a lifetime. And some people think in terms of months, some people think in terms of years, some people think in terms of decades, some people think in terms of lifetimes, long after we are gone. I certainly think in terms of, decades and after I'm gone. It's not about leaving a legacy or being remembered, though that would be cool, but it's really not about that. I'm thinking about the ripple effect of genuinely, I want to leave a library of work that's going to help people who struggle with specific types of problems, because I think it's important that people have access to those things, and then that they have a point of reference to do that, just in the same way that I found a point of reference from other people before that I'm deeply grateful for. So that's what matters to me. And so this is a very, 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 very long game. And so when you're thinking, even in terms of just years, like not even decades, like let's say your idea is, I want to build something long-term, as in 3 years, I'm going to have this particular business brand. This is the image that I have for my future by that point. Well, even if you think in terms of 3 years, what's a week or a month in comparison to 3 years? What's that in comparison to 10 years? Meaning, if you needed to take a month to really get clear on what are your priorities, what do you want to do, how do you want to be, how do you want to operate and show up in social media, and what kind of legacy do you want to create in your brand? Forget about your own personal legacy. That's completely different. That's your life and what you do and how you show up day to day with the people around you. There's so much more to it than the thoughts and ideas that we put out there, but just for your brand itself, the impact that it's going to create. It's okay if you need to take some time to recalibrate and figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Don't feel the need to keep up with the Jonases. Everybody else is trying to capitalize on this one trend. I have to jump on that trend. For example, if everybody else is currently talking about AI, then I have to talk about AI right now. I don't know, this channel, for example, TikTok, when it came, well, not when it came out, but when it started getting popular, I knew it was gonna explode like around 2019. Visco also, I was like, I know this is gonna do really well, but I don't wanna be there. Or when the pandemic happened, I told my husband, now is a great time to set up an e-commerce business, to sell masks and to sell gloves and sell all these things, because these things are gonna run out. I had a lot of experience in e-commerce. I was like, I can put together a Shopify store and drop ship this stuff within 48 hours. But I didn't wanna do it, even though it was an opportunity, even though there was money to be made. So point is, you have to choose. There's so many options in life and so many things you could be doing, but you zero in on one thing and you really believe in it, and you believe in yourself that this is the thing that I want. This is what I want, and I'm working towards that. And you have to put your horse blinders on and ignore everything else. Not be so disconnected that you're not aware of what's happening around you, but also really, when I say horse blinders, I mean you have got to say no to so many things, and you're gonna find so many opportunities along the way that you have to say no to on social media, that you have to ignore in order to manifest, for lack of better words, materialize the thing that you want to create. So think long-term, act in 24-hour compartments, take breaks as needed to revisit, recalibrate, and be easy on yourself. This is, for most of us, this is a very challenging path, but very rewarding one. All right, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, go to brandsarealive.com/newsletters. Sign up for Mojo to get videos like these almost every week. My name is Eliana Kali with Brands Are Alive. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.